welcome to the Anatomy Crosscast. Don't know what episode number this is going to be. To be honest, all we know is that Errors of Humanity will be placed at episode 52 or 3. So, welcome. Hope you guys are all doing well. For me, currently, it's 3:03 p.m. over here in the United States, over in Phoenix, Arizona. For the boys, it is midnight. So, I have no intention on wasting their time, being that it's later in the night. And most likely after this, they might be crashing out. Who knows? But the boys, we are being joined tonight by two members of a really interesting, really innovative project based over in Czech, correct?
Yeah.
Okay. Didn't want to get that wrong because I always remember CZ as being Czechoslovakia. But like before, I've confused Belgium with Germany, and that's just embarrassing. So simply said, we are joined by two participants in a really iconic project called Seeing Things, which for me, my first impression upon listening to this project, I'm like, okay, so they kind of mix these really iconic, like hardcore, even metalcore elements, or just like rock/metal, if you want to break it down to that level. But they also mix it with like almost Matrix house, just like EDM and shit, which I think is really, really, really interesting. And well, nonetheless, that is why we are hosting them on the podcast tonight. So everybody, welcome to chat. Welcome. It's on fucking live stream on Twitch or anything, but welcome to chat. And please, to our listeners, feel free to provide voice messages. There will be a link posted beneath every episode, hopefully from now on, concerning an opportunity to provide a voice message. And for our next episodes, there's also the Crosscore Patreon, which basically, as often as I am able to, and especially when we do have a set in stone episode scheduled, ready to go, we will be giving you guys the opportunity to kind of like give a shout out to the band, like say hi, even though I can't hear you right now. Hope you're doing well. Because I think that would be a great way for the community to start becoming involved with the podcast. I would absolutely love for that to be a thing. So everybody who listens, who has listened so far, thank you. But also just please consider inquiring upon that, because that would be really cool if we got some feedback. Just like, oh, suck my dick or whatever on the podcast, because we don't want to do that. Like, keep it professional, keep it nice, because the last thing I need is for a big band to be on the podcast and be like, yo, freaking Size of the Swarm, you guys suck, click, or whatever. Like, no, we don't want to do that. But simply said, welcome, gentlemen, to the podcast. We were just kind of more or less discussing about a previous accident that I've had with other guests, with other bands, in which I've confused their countries somehow, some way. Maybe I think with just the post, right, that I do on my Instagram to promote my videos, I've like done the Belgium flag for German bands before and the other way around, and people are like, hey, yo, we're from Germany, dude. I'm like, oh, okay, shit. And I just have a little whoopsie moment.
Unfortunately,
because outside of the United States, everything is still like another planet to me, and it's going to be for a long time until I actually venture out there, reach up into the Swiss Alps, go into the actual great north that is Norway and all these northern European countries, and even Czechoslovakia, Prague, all these great areas of the world that, well, are kind of untouched by me specifically, not white people, because that's definitely a thing. That's kind of where they came from. But nonetheless, it's like someone like me, I haven't had the opportunity to do so yet, but you better bet your ass that the day that I do, I will be flying everywhere possible. I will be walking every foot of this earth, and it'll take years for sure. But long story short, I have every intention to turn the Anatomy Crosscast and what we do here on the podcast into something comparable to National Geographic. I think that would be really fun to do, like just a worldwide in-person podcast and like documentary series, just like talking to all these bands, or maybe reuniting with some old friends that we've hosted here on the podcast. So hopefully tonight we're also making some new friends. Cool. Yeah, I can't wait. Nice. And I think amongst other things, when I was younger, about 12 years old, before we get you gentlemen like really introduced into session, because everybody's like, who the fuck is in chat from Seeing Things? Like, come on, man, get on with it. More or less, there was a quote that I told myself when I was about 12 years old, and it was, one day I want to do something that will crack the earth open, whether with intention, but in the most productive and non-lethal way possible. So no, I don't actually plan to crack the earth open, because then we would all die. But doing something that's so impactful upon the music world that it just brings so many people together. It like causes a storm, all that fun stuff. It should be really cool, but I have yet to really figure out what that could even be. So, hello. That was weird. I don't know why. Okay, so we're all good to go. I think my Zoom window just closed for whatever reason. That's okay. We're dealing with it. So tonight, again, we are hosting Seeing Things, a pretty iconic and unique growing band in the scene. This was one of many projects that a gentleman by the name of James sent me a link for. He's like, hey, check out this random band from this random country. I'm like, oh, okay, cool. Variety as far as like where these bands are from, right? And thanks to the same gentleman, I have had the opportunity to now host Black Orchid Empire from the UK, which is basically Muse/Foo Fighters from the UK, which like that in of itself is like, whoa, cool, man. So I've had the great opportunity of hosting them. There are plenty of other projects that I still have yet to host, including, obviously this one tonight. But for starters, I don't know if you gentlemen have had the opportunity to go ahead and check out our previous episodes of the podcast. If not, no pressure, because there are 51 to 52 episodes now. But long story short, a little summary, a little script, I guess I can provide. The first half of the podcast, basically up until I would say 3:45, which that would be 12:45 for you guys. Our intention will be to learn you guys a story, learn who you are as people, and provide your listeners, your audience, your fan base, a little bit more about yourself. This is going to be your time to shine, your time to kind of tell your story. And then in the second half, we'll be talking about how Seeing Things was formed and forged. And especially if you two happen to be the founding members or something, you guys can kind of teach us about the bare bones origin and the bare bones lore behind this project, right? Which would be really cool. So we'll confirm or deny that later in session. But for starters, let's go ahead and break it down a little bit. Well, let's go ahead and treat this like elementary, which that's like what we call it over here in the US. Like, the beginning grades of going to school, right? So your teacher's like, okay, get up for the class and kind of introduce yourself. What's your name? What do you do? Is there anything that you love to do right now? Go ahead and provide us those type of intros, your name, what you do for the band, maybe even like I know it sounds silly, but like a side hobby or maybe a career you happen to be pursuing outside of the music world. And then we will go ahead and proceed from there.
Okay. So first of all, thanks for having us. It's great to be here.
Of course.
So as it was said, we are Seeing Things from Czech Republic, which is the country in the middle of Europe. Czechoslovakia is not existing anymore for a long time. It's two different countries right now. And yeah, it's a lovely country in Europe. And even though for music and for our scene is not like the best thing to be here, we are kind of grateful that we can live here because not everywhere in the world are people so fortunate that they could be in a band, and so that's nice.
Mm-hmm.
If you want to listen to our music, it's very heavy. We're down-tuned with currently with a lot of techno and EDM some genres, and you can find us everywhere: Spotify, YouTube, you name it.
Yeah. And that's a really fun thing about it, really. Like, it's such fun.
And my name is Josef. I am professional musician. I am working in the musical theater, and I am doing bass for the band. And I'm not the founding member. Maybe Erich can tell you more about it.
Yeah. Yeah, okay.
Your turn.
And my name is Erich. You can call in US Eric, but here we call it Erich. I'm a singer in the band, and normally I worked as a team leader for manufacturing of some scientist company here in Brno, which is second biggest city in Czech Republic.
Badass. And I mean, great intro. I mean, I think the rest of the class can understand that pretty well. So that's an excellent start. And it's pretty cool immediately that Josef is doing, like, he was professionally involved and like academically involved in the music field. And I mean, obviously, yeah, right. And if I could, I do apologize because I'm freaking American Wonder Bread White. You said your name was Erich? Or
Eric, yeah, but in Czech and German, it's called Erich.
Erich, okay.
Erich,
a little bit of a little bit more phlegm in there. Okay, cool. So awesome. Thank you guys for introducing yourselves. And now that we're like kind of a little bit more warmed up, right? I guess the first question I had for the both of you, and this is kind of like digging more personally, how are your views on the world going on right now? Like how do you feel things are going? How could they improve? All that type of fun stuff. Definitely important to pluck perspective from our respective guests, and especially being that you guys are a little bit more closer to one of the world's bigger conflicts, if not the biggest right now. How is life treating you guys? And you know, how, like, yeah, what's your perspective on the world at large right now?
Yeah, man. It's terrifying because me personally, I'm still scared what's going next, because, you know, as you said before, we're so close to Ukraine and Russia. So yeah, it's terrifying and disturbing.
Yeah,
like every day.
right.
We don't know what's happening next, and
yeah, I'm not sure how much people in USA are aware of what is going on in Ukraine right now.
Right.
But what happened, that Russia invaded Ukraine, and we feel it a lot in here because we have a lot of Ukrainian refugees. And also we feel it in that musical life, because we met a lot of new people who are from Ukraine, and they told us stories. Yeah, so if you meant that.
Right. No, that's exactly what I meant. Just like your opinion on what's going on right now and how all that's unfolding, because thankfully there are plenty, if not most, if not all Americans are very, very aware of the Ukraine-Russia conflict right now. And I mean, being that for the first time in human history, or in recent history, I would say, we have countries that beforehand would have absolutely remained neutral, right? Like Finland, Sweden, all those remaining countries, really. It's at the very least interesting and kind of uplifting to see that they are willing to get involved. I just hope that behind the scenes, basically, that there isn't a behind the scenes motive for all this, but one can only hope that major changes in the world like that are for a good reason, and it's not for like, okay, this is probably a good financial investment, you know what I mean? Like, unfortunately, wars, conflicts at large, half the time it's over resources, or it's over establishing a federal bank, or like a centralized bank in a neutralized country. Well, neutralized, it's a little bit, it's neutral, but you know, it's got the neutralized at the end, so therefore it's like a whole different word. So what I meant is that it's interesting to see how those things go, and hopefully it's for a good cause. I think that's a great way to kind of isolate that and shorten it up. So
yeah, thanks for opening the topic, because we really feel it a lot in here. Like, we're not sure who will have what out of it, but like, we're really thinking about people who are suffering right now because of rockets and shit like that. Yeah, we really hear a lot of stories every day. Yeah, so thanks for opening that. It's important for
Oh, it's so important.
European people.
Yeah, and a lot of our friends have still parents in Ukraine. Still, they are there.
Yeah,
So
families and friends.
And parents and others.
Yeah, definitely a little bit of like at least a moment of silence for all those who have lost their lives so far.
Yeah.
All right. So with a little bit of that, and that's like the first time we've done that on the podcast, but like nonetheless, dude, whether it's a smaller podcast or whether it happens to be like the Joe Rogan podcast, it's very important to recognize that shit's happening every day.
I agree.
That's
music cannot be unpolitical. Like
exactly,
sport can be unpolitical. Yeah, it's good to talk about it.
Mm-hmm. And it's just, I think one interesting thing that ended up being an icebreaker for most of my day really is learning that with all that going on, you have your specific characters per se in that story, in that overarching narrative. You have like Russia, Ukraine, and then you have, you know, NATO, but you also have Wagner, right? The Russian mercenaries. I don't know if you guys have heard, but as of today, they are attempting a siege or like a mutiny of some sort with Russia. And I think it's either like the Russian people or maybe even the BRICS alliance, who fucking knows. But someone's like, hey, you need to get these guys under control because they're about to take over Russia if you don't stop your shit. And, you know, obviously every day he's like, yo, I have more nukes than NATO. Like, fuck you. I'm like, dude, that's not what this is about. It is like we're accusing you of war crimes and kidnapping tens of thousands of Ukrainian kids. You know, like those are war crimes. And you're like, oh, I got nukes though, bitch. I'm like, fuck off, dude. No one cares. Like everybody does. But also you're just another bully in a massive narrative throughout human history. Like no one cares. No one cares if you have nukes. Just stop killing innocent people. It's fucked.
Yeah.
It's fucked. And it's absolutely just what a bully does. You're like, Mr. Evil. Like that's basically who Putin is right now. Just like, I'm evil. I'm like, who fucking cares, dude? But with that in mind, I really hope that that conflict wraps up pretty soon. And with the new Wagner chapter going on, how he's like, yo, we're about to take over Russia because fuck Russia. They killed a whole bunch of my men. They've been starving us of resources, ammunition, all that fun stuff, leaving us to die, and then sending their own young men to just be freaking cannon fodder. It's like a part of me is hoping that one, Wagner wins, but only because maybe if they're the ones in control, right? Maybe they'll do something a little bit different. They'll be maybe, I don't know, like that's a big reach because this is a mercenary group we're talking about. And you see the movies, you watch all fictional media of any sort that's meant to provide a perspective and provide someone's imagination and thoughts, hypotheses, right? On mercenaries, on bounty hunters, whatever. And usually doesn't end up well. It's like if they have enough money, they might do some good. But otherwise, it's like, well, you paid us to do this job. So if we don't have any money and you're not providing us the resources, we're just going to turn on you instead. I'm really hoping there's kind of like a silver lining in there. And they're like, yeah, we're kind of done messing with Ukraine and we took over Russia and you guys can still be independent. I'm really hoping that happens, but history will have to speak for itself. But
yeah, I don't think that will happen because unfortunately, because we followed the story a lot today. I think all of us followed it, and the Wagner forces stopped and they turned away from Moscow and went back. So because they had some meeting with Lukashenko, which is Belarus president. So yeah, unfortunately, nothing.
No silver lining.
Nothing
from
big.
Wagner,
It's just big mess.
Yeah. It's a major mess.
One big.
It's basically a question who is more evil.
Yeah. Which I would say Putin, but Wagner is just more efficient. So if they're more efficient, are they more evil because they're better at doing their job at being bad guys or something like that? And that's just like that's again breaking it down to elementary level. But
Yeah,
as
who
we're,
knows?
as we kind of had that segment covering, one of the world's major conflicts, which like I never thought I'd do, but I'm kind of glad I did it. It's different, it's fresh, it's something that everybody needs to be keeping in mind actively. And I do apologize to any people from, their part of the world, from Czech or any of these European countries, right, that read up on stories of like Republicans and conservatives over here who just like, why are we giving them all our fucking money? Why are we sending money over to Ukraine? We should be saving it for our own gas. Like, it's just so embarrassing, dude, because it's like, well, hopefully it doesn't seem to be that obvious, right? And this is kind of, I think this is like a good place to wrap up the Ukraine-Russia thing, because I could talk about this all day. But it's like, when it's not obvious and when it's not in the forefront that Ukraine has yet to have a federal reserve or a centralized bank that allows for international currency to kind of flow through, and the value of different currencies around the world, that's kind of what that's for. I don't know if you guys knew about that, but Ukraine is like one of the only countries in the world who doesn't have one yet, I think. And there are like a couple more Middle Eastern countries, and there are theories that that's why we were over there, is to establish that Federal Reserve. But those are just theories, right? So part of me is like, well, any major conflict is going to be a financial investment. And yeah, there are probably some variables that play into it, but that doesn't mean we have to just pluck all of our resources from Ukraine. Like, we're not meant to be the policing country of the world, because that's just annoying. That's like the little mosquito in your ear. But like, when I see all these people just like, all our fucking money is going to Ukraine, I'm tired of it, let's pull out immediately. I'm like, whoa. That's not going to help anything. Like, unfortunately, in today's political atmosphere. But I think that's definitely a good place to wrap up that part of the podcast. So let's let's learn more about you two gentlemen. Kind of isolating this to promote seeing things and what you guys have accomplished so far, which, I mean, at first impression, I mentioned the John Radical stuff earlier, but literally I could see you guys opening up for Electric Callboy in the future. I don't know if that's just me, but I can see that happening.
That would be great. We would not have a problem with that.
Yeah, that's good. Well, at least we're on the same page there. And while we're kind of talking and we're in session, this is something newer that I like to do, is I'd like to kind of search up the stats for these boys. So let's go ahead and see how you guys are doing. So currently you guys have 16,154 monthly listeners. I think you guys are doing pretty good right now. That's just that's just me. But you guys are doing really, really well. And let's see. You guys have quite a bit of music out. You have an EP from back last year. You have a couple singles. Not a couple, you got like 4 or 5. So you guys are definitely gearing up for something. And that's also kind of what what we will be talking about tonight in session. Give you all the behind the scenes scoop, you know what I mean? But before we do that, and that'll be for the second half of the session, Erich, let's go ahead and dive headfirst into your story, right? Pretend I'm like David Attenborough or some shit, just like, Erich is a talented vocalist. He's one of 2 in seeing things, and he's about to embark on a new tour. Like, basically, we're going to try to narrate your story, right? But we're going to give you the opportunity to speak for yourself, because that's kind of how this works. So if anything, let's go as far back as possible. Let's like get a little bit of frontman syndrome in the podcast tonight, and let's learn about how you got into music, became really passionate, and became one of 2 vocalists for Seeing Things. Unless if it's just you, and maybe I misunderstood that. Are you the?
Yeah. We have just Erich is our vocalist right now.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, but some type of elements. Our guitarist rapping somewhere in our songs, and
right.
But, yeah.
Okay. That makes more sense.
But I do cleans and screams and
right.
stuff.
Fuck yeah, dude. Okay. So in that case, let's learn how you got into like being a vocalist, being so passionate about music. Go as early as possible. Let's dig in, man. Take it away, sir.
Okay, so it's kind of funny thing because like 1.5 years ago, I like I can't scream and can't sing properly because I never did that before. It's funny story because I learned just of that because we need some like suitable singer for a band. So before I joined like sing things, I was just like a bassist guy and keyboardist guy. So sing things is like my like I think seventh like try of getting some like band, like getting some serious band, very professional band. So yeah, I started like making music when I was like 15 years old, and then I just like trying to get some more serious, like find some good group of people that we can make more serious band. And
Yeah.
So
Cool.
basically that's the that's the main story. But I sing and scream like for 1.5 years, half a year. Yeah.
Cool. Yeah.
Yeah,
Just
you had to learn it super fast. I almost forget about that.
yeah. Because I was a little bit forced because we had big problems with finding suitable singer for this project. So
Right.
yeah, but we will
Cool.
talk about it later.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's really cool. That's really cool. What piques my interest a little bit more for sure is the projects before Seeing Things, right? That you are a part of. You mentioned that you were a keyboardist and a bassist for those prior projects, correct?
Yeah, but these bands was like some type of cringy bands and some local cringy bands.
Yeah, and that's okay. That's absolutely okay. Because
except Countless weren't that cringy. They tried hard.
Yeah, Countless was my ex band from before Seeing Things. And from that point, it's getting more serious when I met.
You will cut out this.
All right. Yeah. So, Erich, we were learning a little bit more, like, and I was curious. I was trying to like dig a little deeper, get a little bit more stuck in the past, really. But so you said you did keyboard, you said you did bass. So obviously you were at least at one time an instrumentalist, right? So how did you end up like getting into those roles, even if it was a cringy band, like whatever, that's not what we care about.
Yeah.
I want to learn like what got you into doing instrumentals, right? And playing instruments, and why did you end up departing from that? So let's dig into that.
Yeah, so basically when I first saw and heard Attack or Asking Alexandria or these type of crapcore bands,
yes,
I just said to myself, oh, I need to buy Microcork, which is like iconic synth keyboard from like these bands from crapcore era. They are using it, like every band using Microcore synth. So I just try to make covers on YouTube, like for these synth parts and iconic crapcore synth parts, and that's the point where everything starts with metalcore and deathcore and crapcore and the stuff.
Cool.
That's where I found this genre. So
badass. No,
before that I listened to ADM and drum and bass and techno.
So okay, let's dig into that too. Like, you know, unfortunately, until you're like, I don't want to talk about that, I'll be like, let's learn about your EDM history. And obviously, like there's a profound EDM techno influence in this project. So I mean, me personally too, I am a bass head, right? I have a bass guitar, but I started out with dubstep. I started out with Skrillex and Deadmau5. Let's see, Excision, because I was just addicted to the and like the idea of your subwoofer is about to burst, right? Because the bass is so intense. So I don't know if we kind of shared that same aspect in our musical journey, but I want to learn also, whilst we're in session, if and when you got into EDM and what were like some of your prominent artists, like what got you hooked on EDM, and yeah.
Yeah, for me it was like Bass Hunter, if you know that
Ah,
name.
yes. Oh my God, it's been such a long time since I've heard that
Yeah,
name.
and then I discovered DJ Tiesto, and from that point I just in meantime I separately discovering some of drum and bass interprets,
Mm,
such as B Complex, which is a Slovakia guy. It's
cool.
interesting. And the whole UKAF channel. I don't know what's the name of the YouTube channel.
Yeah,
One of
yeah.
the
No,
biggest drum and
you're
bass
UKF.
close. It's like
yeah,
UKF.
yeah, UKF.
Really
Yeah,
iconic
but Bass
channel.
Hunter was the for first one when when I like start to listen to ADM and this electronic music.
Do you still bounce back to the past and listen to EDM quite often, or
Yeah,
like? Okay, good, good. Sticking
almost
to your
every
roots,
day.
man.
But the funny thing is that I instantly jumped from this type of genre to metalcore and
Yeah.
totally skipped and never discovered like Iron Maiden, Metallica, and this type of bands. So
Mhm.
it's a shame, but I did like instantly jump from this genre to metalcore.
That'll be your
To
retirement phase, man. Like when you're done with seeing things one day and you're all old and wrinkly and shit at a group home, you'd be like, "Come and show me some Iron Maiden, Bethany," or like, "Put on some Slayer, please. I can't fucking do the metalcore anymore. The EDM makes my bones rattle." Like, that's what I'm thinking it's gonna be for me because I was the exact same way. I did maybe Slayer and Cannibal Corpse for a very short time after what was EDM to crapcore or emo like Pierce the Veil, Sleeping with Sirens, Asking Alexandria, Breathe Carolina back before they became a two-person
yeah,
DJ artist, right? So after that, I
yeah,
remember,
and Icebreaker and Game Changer was like Pendulum and Prodigy too. So
yes,
yeah,
Pendulum. Okay, cool. Um, yeah, we're definitely gonna share that aspect and like
yeah.
kind of compare with that. That's cool. But definitely yeah, and I think I've mentioned this on the podcast a couple times before to other featured artists and musicians, but it's like it's a new conversation with every person. So back in that day when I went from emo to metalcore and then like started out with the EDM and the dubstep and stuff. Oh, thank you. Ooh, okay, got some treats.
Nice.
Shout out to
Sorry.
the roommates. No, you're good. I didn't even hear that. That's funny. He was like, like that's it. Advanced technology, we like it. No, it was all those various genres, and I was jumping from era to era to era. And then literally one of my best friends, even today, her mom, we were in the car with her in her like rickety old suburban car, sedan. That's probably a better way to say it, sedan. We were in her sedan, we were showing her Pierce the Veil and Sleeping with Science, and she's like, "What is this pussy shit?" And she just like cranked Marilyn Manson, Cannibal Corpse, Mayhem, and like all these really, really heavy bands. And because the car was so old and the sound system was fucked, it just like blah, blah, it's like shaking the car doors and shit. And I'm like, whoa. It was like Slipknot after that, Korn, a little bit of Korn for sure, because my mom grew up on grunge and new metal and shit. And then it
Nice.
just skyrocketed from there. And I over time found like heavier bands or like more just like oomph bands that had their place in the metalcore and deathcore genre, and then eventually became slam. And here we are today where I listen to absolutely everything, but there are definitely some artists that I refuse to listen to because there's a lot of shitty and shady people in the higher like tiers, right, of the music world. So it's like, well, me personally, I don't really separate the art from the artist, right? So there are some scenes I try to stay away from because like, the EDM genre, right? Just to kind of like be as transparent as possible. I've always understood EDM festivals or EDM shows, there's a higher chance of people dropping LSD or acid or like all these harder psychedelic drugs and just like it's like a frat party, and that's every show you go to, right? Or most of them, right? Because I don't want to generalize, that would be very ignorant of me. But like there's like the kind of frat party or frat boy Chad Kyle mindset, and so that's the only reason I never really got into that industry or that genre, right? That scene of music, that and like dubstep is so predictable. You know, you have your first part, your intro, your like, I don't even know, intro to climax, dun 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 dun, and like bass drop and everything, and then it maybe does that again, and then it's over, and like that's the whole formula. So that's also why I ended up migrating from EDM to metal so quick. I'm like, I need something new, bro. It's like different sounds, but the same exact structure. So obviously Seeing Things is not just an EDM artist, it's EDM mixed with all these various modernized subgenres of metal and rock. So that's always fun. Kind of forgot what we were talking about because I went on such a rant, but
yeah, I have kind of something to add to that.
Yes.
Because I got into EDM when I heard for the first time Phase One, and because I don't think he has that typical structure of the EDM song. He's like really straight on point, and that inspires a lot of Seeing Things music. Like Phase One, he's I think UK artist.
Okay,
not
cool.
Sure. Yeah.
Across the pond and all that. I like it.
Right.
It's usually that, you know, most American DJs and most franchise EDM artists and DJs like Tiesto, I know he's from Italy, right?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. I know my lore. I remember my lore from back in elementary and junior high. Cool.
Nice.
But obviously for me, it was Cruella. I love them. There was Zed, right, with Clarity. Are you my Clarity? There was like Owl City. That's not really an EDM artist, but kind of a gateway into electronic music, right? There was Owl City, Zed, Cruella, Tiesto, Headhunters. That was definitely like a harder, just like blah, blah, blah. There was Knife Party. I don't know if you ever listened to Knife Party, but they're iconic for what it's worth. Let's see, Skrillex, obviously, and Skrillex is like both the king of dubstep, and he used to be in one of the most profound, even though it's cringy now, one of the most profound emo bands from first to last, and they almost came back, and I was like, yes, more stuff, and then they like dived into the floor, never to return. I'm like, no, but no, lots of music, man. Lots of music. And, you know, growing up, you start with something you end up thinking is a little bit more cringy later in time, or you're like, fuck that, I still love it. And you just go back to it and enjoy it. And that's kind of the path that I try to embark upon, is not listening to any artist or participating with any music that later I would regret listening to. It's like very obsessive almost in nature, but it's like, if you're going to pave a path, like, why would you pave a path with thorns? You know what I mean? Just like step on the thorns and then be like, oh yeah, the beginning of the path it's dangerous. It's like, it's actually a safety hazard for people starting out with it. You know what I mean? But that's just one perspective. So obviously you went from EDM, you got into instrumentals, you got into playing instruments. You learned how to play bass, you learned how to play keyboard. So Erich, did you ever like indulge in any music theory? Did you end up like doing any high school classes or like any school classes for music and stuff like that, just to say, fuck it, might as well learn how to do it, might as well do it at school. Maybe I can like make friends and stuff like that, and like make those bands you were talking about before, the more cringy projects. Like, how did that all end up coming together before Seeing Things?
Yeah, like when I was in elementary school, my parents just forced me to like learn how to play piano and
okay,
and
cool.
a little bit of bass.
Yeah, you don't really hear often people like you need to learn music if you like. Do you remember the reason back then? Like, did they just want you to be involved in the creative medium? Was it something in the family? Because I've never heard that before. Just like, you're learning how to play a piano whether you like it or not. You're like, I want to play bass, ma. Like, well, what's the story behind that? If you don't mind talking about that.
It's okay, but our family, we are musicians, like overall, because my second my mother worked as like a singer, like professional singer.
Oh, that's cool.
So to today, and so yeah, it was like kind of, let's give it a chance, like to our son, to get like to music directly, like from the roots of our families, of our family or something like that. Yeah, but I hate that school, like that musician elementary school, and I after 5 years I left completely music, like doing music, because I hated that. And then after like 7 years, I found crapcore and metalcore and start
Right.
learning instruments and the music again.
Right. No, badass. So I think Joseph ended up mentioning one of the project names earlier, but like, what were some of the names of these projects that you were doing? And were you doing them like with buddies? Were you doing them with random people in the area who just like, I just want to make music, man? And then you made friends after that, like through the music? How did all that go?
Yeah, so as Joseph said before, the X project was named Countless, and at that point, that was when where I have met Martin, which is current member of Saying Things, second guitarist. So that was like the more, as I said before, the most serious part of the era of the time when we met and trying to get more like attention of some other skilled peoples to get to our project, to join our project and start some more serious bands. So that was like, I can say, the most starting point for this all. All.
Cool. And you said, what was the name of the project? It was like
Countless.
Countless.
Countless. Yeah, Countless. Yeah.
Okay, cool. Countless. That's cool. I like that project name. That's cool.
Like counting countless.
Yeah. Okay, cool. Sorry, me being Wonder Bread White. I'm like accountant.
Yeah, sorry.
Accountant. No, you're good. You're good. I wish I had an accent like that. I really do. I maybe had a Southern twang when I was living in Tennessee, and well, out here in the West, in the remnants of the West, people don't really care about the Southern twang anymore. So I'm like, good time to be Valley Girl White again. Like, let's go get Starbucks. Like,
yeah. And these times I was connected to music directly because before we started Countless, I worked as a metal show promoter, and I had some booking company here in Czech.
That's cool.
I start meeting a lot of bands from around the world, doing shows, making shows, and this type of stuff, helping with local festivals, like to get some US bands like to our local festivals and
that's
this
cool.
type of stuff. Yeah. So I'm start creating some networking, and then I try to make some band.
Okay, cool.
You did shows for quite a large band, right?
Yeah, I did shows for Ginger, for Bad Omens, for Dream on Dreamer, for yeah, here in Brno.
That's cool. I love that. Ginger, dude. Let's see. Oh shit, my headphones. But
can't
really see it. But I'm wearing Ginger joggers right now. And my headphones unplugged, so bear with me. Okay, now I have my ears back. Yay. But yeah, I love
it. So but biggest band I did was like Bad Omens. Because that was time when they released their first debut album with like these singles, The Worst in Me, Exit Bound, and these songs. So then they did a world tour. They started at Sumerians Records, and yeah, I did the show in Brno, here in Brno, and then in Prague next year. Yeah,
you did your homework, man. That's badass. That's really cool. Like, dude, I remember when me and my buddies, when we were younger, and like if any of my friends happen to listen to this will be a fucking throwback. Because I'm bringing it back as a gaming channel. But so AFI, right? You know the band AFI, and it's like just those letters. So there's no like words for those three letters. It's just AFI.
Not sure if I heard of that.
Right. Okay. So that's.
But we'll check it out. We'll check it out.
Yeah. No, I mean, I haven't listened to anything by them, but that was kind of like what we were compared to and what the idea was compared to. But yeah, we were trying to do stuff similar to that back in the day with the group called TSK. And it was going to be like music, gaming, photography, and like street sports. So, you know, just recording all that, doing videos for all that, and hopefully climbing up eventually to sponsorships and shit. But yeah, I mean, I only compare that to what you were actually doing because like the ambition was there. And we were just like, okay, we need to get associated with all the bands at our school, or all the bands being just band projects. There's nothing fucking happening. It was all on paper. Everybody's like, I want to be in a deathcore band, or I want to be in a band like Attack, Asking Alexandria, and like we're gonna be called Blinking Through Bloodshot. And you know, there was A Night in the Attic, there was Upon These Scars, there was Just Pure Insanity. That was one of the project names, and it was all fun and games until we realized, well, we can't really do any of this actually, and a lot of people just quickly gave up on it. But just like that's the important shit, man. Like, did you enjoy getting involved with like the booking and shit like that? Was it like, I don't know, how did it feel to be involved in that process?
Yeah, it was very interesting, and another funny thing is that we like placed ourselves as Countless to like support that gig for Bad Omens. So basically, we support Bad Omens at one show. So yeah,
That's funny.
It was like, yeah.
I mean, dude, hell, if you have the opportunity, if you can help organize these shows, but also be like, hey, we're also in a band, can we open for you guys? And like, yeah, sure. Then fuck, why not? You know, that's awesome.
Exactly. So,
so that was very
interesting experience.
Right. So we kind of like move forward a little bit, right? We kind of fast forward in time, talking a little bit about seeing things without addressing you both as like one person, that person being seeing things, which we will do later in session. But I definitely wanted to ask, like, do you write like bass parts or even like piano parts, keyboard parts for this newer project? Or a different question, attempting to receive the same answer, would be, how did Countless and your other prior projects kind of make it into seeing things? What was the best answer you would have for describing that transition? Or is it like, yeah, we kind of left that stuff behind, this is a brand new thing that also brings back elements from the very beginning? You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think this like project, the Seeing Things, is the brand new stuff, and it's not connected to like our like my ex bands, but as I said before, the main important thing that in Countless I met Martin, which is like the main producer of our song currently in Seeing Things, and he did like 90% of all jobs, like with songwriting. So
yeah,
that was the main point.
Badass. And you know, you did the instrumentals before, you did the instruments before. Have you ever written any instrumental parts for any of the Seeing Things discography? Do you plan to do that in the future?
Yeah, I'm to, like for the first singles I helped with like making some ideas. I tried to make a chorus for these songs, and with Martin we wrote together our two first singles in Seeing Things.
Cool.
Yeah, but in Countless in the past I wrote like half part of the everything.
Sick. No, it's awesome. And I mean, that way too, I don't know if you're like the primary lyricist for the project, but that just allows you to be more involved, and like more of your blood, sweat, and tears are in Seeing Things, right? You're just like naturally feel more integrated that way. So that's really cool. Well, you know, we've been talking a lot about you. So being that it's 12:53 for you guys right now, it's getting closer to 1. You guys are like, oh, dude, let me go to sleep.
No, it's okay.
No, it's okay. It's okay.
I mean, I know I would be that way if I was in your position. I'm like, dude, I gotta go to work tomorrow.
Yeah.
Like, when is this?
I'm kind of relaxing because my daughter and wife's just sleeping, so I'm enjoying this interview.
Good. Okay, awesome. Well, as we're kind of like wrapping up your side of the story, and like we've talked about so much that you were involved in, how you got into music. Now, I kind of want to pluck 5 characters off of you. And what I mean by that is if you have any all-time favorite artists, albums, people in general, and like maybe genres of all time, because it's pretty obvious you're into EDM and that's what you started with, like humble beginnings, and then you have like metalcore, you have crapcore, maybe like every now and then a little guilty pleasure to listen to Attack or Asking Alexandria, and that's completely fine. So I kind of want to learn, what is the driving force musically for you behind what you have been creating so far for Seeing Things?
Yeah, so my biggest inspiration was the ex-singer of Attack, which is Caleb Shomo, because he started like doing touring in playing at a Warped tour, and making like bigger serious music at he was 15 years old.
Really?
And the 15 years old, yeah.
Oh God!
When the first album came out on Rise Records, so that's the biggest inspiration for me. Yeah, and Attack was like, yeah, it's my, I would say my favorite band, like to this time, like for today, together with Northline.
Northline. Okay, true, true shit, dude. Are you a fan of their newer material, Obsidian and Alien?
Yeah.
He laughs because he listens to it like 24/7 or something, huh?
Yeah, Joseph totally love it. That album.
Yeah.
No, it's cool. That's cool. So you got Caleb Shomo of Attack itself. You got Northlane. Have there been like any significant people in your life, maybe including your own wife, which like that's awesome, man. I'm glad you have a little family going on. Like I'm hoping to get to that point someday, but I'm only 23, so you know I'm trying to take it easy and take it slow. What are some people in your life, or like major inspirational figures, I guess, whether it be your own parents, your wife, maybe even like your best friends or something? What are some people that have like really helped you push forward to be like, dude, keep at it, do Seeing Things, keep at it, keep learning bass, keep learning keyboard, just like all these different people along the way? Do you have any people that you can place in that bracket per se?
One of my another inspiration is my mother, because she's still supporting me. In fact, that she doesn't like this type of genre, so yeah, that's the main force for me, and the main power. Cool. And the second was, as I said again and again, was Martin, because Martin is like super skilled guy who now knows everything and can learn anything like in 10 times faster than any other guy. It's incredible.
Yeah. He did all the editing for our latest music video, the Switchblade, and also for Soul Killer, all the effects. That's his job, and he learned it in like 2 months. Like I don't get it. That he's crazy. Like
he's definitely
really.
No,
actually he's not.
I'm kidding. Usually here in the United States, if you're able to do that much and you have that much time, that means you gotta find a lady, man.
It sounds like that, but he's not nerdy.
No. He has great girlfriend and great like life. Totally normal guy. He just can learn stuff super fast. No, I also admire that a lot. That's great.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. So
but my like overall motivation was like in Czech and Slovakia, we didn't have like anyone or any band who like crossed the borders from this scene here.
Okay.
So that was my biggest motivation.
Right, is like the fact that the scene is so small, or
yeah.
I mean, as like, dude, I can only imagine because over here it's like that's more or less talking about smaller cities, right, or even like countryside cities. You got these like Stranger Things, right? You got the town of Hawkins, very similar to that. So you got all of your hometown heroes, they all build a scene, they all develop, everybody's talking about them, and then eventually they'll kind of just like pop off and like start shooting into the world. I can only imagine that over in the European chunk of the world, right? That when it comes to scenes, music scenes, like it's going to take a little bit more time for there to be like massive scenes in every country. So it's like you guys get the opportunity to say, we're from Czech. Everybody's like, wait, what? You're from Czech? You're not from Germany? You're not from France? You're like, no, I'm from Czech, bro. Czech music, like freaking seeing things, baby. Pop off, let's go. And bands like Within Destruction, that's another good example, because they're one of the only bands I've heard about that really blew up that came from Slovenia originally, right? Another great band. But that's kind of what you think about, or at least if you're someone like me who digs in as much as you do, wants to learn about these bands, wants to learn about the people behind the music, you're like, oh shit, they're from like a tiny little corner country right next to Georgia over in the European area. Cool. Like that's Within Destruction. So that's really awesome. And I have a feeling you guys are gonna blow the fuck up. Like especially for
actually,
your local
I hope
area.
so. I would like to add to that, because we are lucky enough that our second guitar player, Vojta, is a producer. And of course, he's producing us, but also you had here No Face, No Case, or he produced some songs of Distant or Aviana. And so he's also very talented guy, like one of the kind here in Czech Republic. And so we are very lucky. And AB Falls, if you're familiar with them. So we're very lucky that we have him in our band, because we love what he's doing and how he's doing it, and he's also a very nice guy. So yeah,
absolutely, man. Shout out to No Face, No Case and Distant, for we've had both of them on the podcast before. So it's always great to kind of make those connections and create this massive cobweb that is all the bands that we've hosted on the podcast. So that's badass. I love that one member of the band is responsible for producing content material for those bands. It's actually so cool. I love that. So with that in mind, Eric, you're done. Go. No, I'm kidding. It's now Joseph's turn. So let's go ahead and dig in as much as possible. It's currently 4:01 p.m. for me, so it's 1:01 a.m. for y'all. So let's go ahead, Joseph. Take the floor. The mic, the mic is yours. Go ahead and tell us your story, man. Tell us everything you feel is relevant to you becoming the musician and the piece of seeing things that you are today. Take it away.
Yeah. Okay. So I started long time ago, because my parents are musical teachers, and they also want me to play classical guitar and piano, but I gave that up for first electric guitar and then bass guitar. And but I played bass guitar for a while, and then I was at the point of the life when I had to decide what I will do next, because I was at elementary school, and well, what we're gonna do with you, because I'm not like super talented for some science stuff, maths, and so it was my mother's idea that I could play double bass, and I picked the double bass, and then after some time I started studying conservatory. I'm classical double bass player, but I still practice bass guitar a lot.
Cool.
And of course, I had a lot of bands before metalcore, but also in different genres. One of them was Pray for Forgiveness. I'm not sure if anybody's familiar with the band, but that taught me a lot on the instrument, because I thought, wow, I can play, and that band gave me that experience showed me that I really have to work on myself.
Right.
And yeah, then I played a lot of gent stuff and technique stuff, and I really practiced. And it's 2 years ago or 1.5 years ago, Erich wrote me that they need somebody for music video because they didn't had a bass player back then. And he sent me some stuff, and I was like blown away by what they are doing, because it was exactly what I wanted to do. And because I was into Northlane so much, and Alpha Wolf, and all those heavy ass shit. And also I loved the EDM stuff, because actually the first song I heard from guys was Soul Killer, which is our single which came.
Yes, that's how I got introduced
January.
to you boys.
Yeah, January this year.
Right.
And I was like, wow, what the fuck? I really want to be there for this. And happily guys took me in, and since then we are together and we are working on stuff, and it's great. I'm really happy that I'm in the band where everybody see the music in the same way and what we want to do in the same way, because that's not a standard at all.
It's not.
I had to push a lot in my previous bands at the other members, and they're like, hey, but that's cool, right? Let's do cool stuff. I know maybe you like this, but nobody will want to listen to it. And
yeah,
that's not the case here, because I trust 100% to Martin, Vojta, Erich, Patrick, our drummer, he's also professional drummer. He's right now studying in Great Britain. So
dude,
we have really great team. Yeah, we have really great team, and yeah, we're ready.
Yeah, you seem fucking ready. Like if you aren't by now, I don't know when you will be. Because you guys are making strides, man. And I mean, just obviously we more or less checked your monthly listener count earlier, which again, 16,154. That's a lot more than my own band, which has maybe 4. But we also only have 1 song out, so baby steps. But Soul Killer being my introduction and my the song that really introduced me to the band, it's currently sitting at 49,682 streams, and that's just Spotify. So I have no idea about the YouTube music video. I can easily check that, so I'll actually do that real quick, because I love seeing the stats. I love seeing the people I'm interviewing grow. You know what I mean? It's always so much fun. So let's see, seeing things. Soul Killer, because that's a badass song. I still need to listen to Switchblade, bro, but I'm trying to save it for content, and I'm like, it sucks to save everything for content, but. Let's see. So currently 731 likes, 13,000 views on the Space Untraveled channel. So you guys are doing great. You guys are doing absolutely fantastic. And I love to see everybody that I'm following, that I'm shadowing per se, grow. So that's really rewarding. And I have a feeling you guys are going to be making some pretty big moves one day. Hopefully opening up, you already, let's see, Joseph, were you involved in Countless?
No, that was Erich.
Okay, right. So, you think on bands like Countless, right, that Erich was previously involved in opening up for bands like Bad Omens, being, indirectly involved with bands like Ginger, which is iconic. Like, I love Ginger so much. I can easily see you guys making some big strides in the future. I would love to see you guys open and be on tour with Spirit Box. I would love to see you guys with Bad Omens. Ginger, Ocean's 8 Alaska. I think that would be a solid as fuck one, and that's those guys are basically
I love Ocean's 8 Alaska.
Dude, what'd you think of their new album?
The new album of Ocean's 8 Alaska is I didn't like it, that I have to say I didn't like it that much as Hikari, the previous album. And the album before, The Lost Isles, that was when I heard that for the first time, I was like blown away. Totally. In the time, the sound of the album, that rhythm things inside of it, because all the drummer writes the music. I'm not sure if a lot of people knows that. Because,
right. That makes sense.
Chris Turner, the drummer. That's why it's so crazy.
Yeah.
And yeah. And I was fortunate enough to have one guitar lesson with their guitar player, and they're very nice guys. Really, I even though I'm not I still praise more their all the stuff.
Yes.
It's still great music. So
good. Yeah, and Disparity too. Like, I think the only thing I wasn't really into is kind of how out of left field it was, right? So when it first released, it was kind of like, okay, 2 weeks, we're going to be releasing a new album just out of nowhere. I'm like, wait a minute, what? Like, we don't even have time to build up to this. It's like, okay, yeah, we're releasing. It's been years. Sorry, here's a new album. I'm like, that's not how you market, bro. That's not how you promote. So that was
we were
also
surprised by that.
Yeah, and then I mean, dude, let's see. So going over to Ocean's 8 Alaska, I guess, because that's something we're doing on the podcast now. It was cool to know that their old vocalist, their OG vocalist, was coming back. The album is called Disparity, and I even forgot the name, so that's why I'm saying it. But Metamorph, I was in love with the first time.
It was great.
And that's amongst other things. There's Metamorph, there's Soul, there's what is it? New Dawn, there's Plague Speech. I think that was like that was the heaviest one on the record, if not Dead Behind the Eyes, featuring Eric from I Prevail, because that's a mouthful. Love the album cover. It was really fun. But we're talking about seeing things, people. Want to know more about Ocean's 8 Alaska. Just kidding. Great band, and I hope to see you guys touring with them or like doing shows with them in the future. I think that'd be
great.
So as we're continuing to learn about you, Josef, same thing I did with Erich. I'm wanting to dig a little bit more and like kind of learn about the projects that you did before seeing things, because obviously you were involved in multiple projects. You said these projects like switched genres really fast, and that's kind of how it is, dude. That's how projects kind of distinguish from each other. So like, what were you said you learned a lot, right? You learned a lot. You're like, okay, I need to get better at playing bass. That way, if I do join a bigger band one day, a more serious band, well, I won't look like a jackass or something similar. That's absolutely American word. But what were some of the cooler moments from those projects? Like, what's something you look back on, you're like, that was fun as fuck, but also I love being and seeing things. So, focus on the future.
I have a lot of that. So in the metal scene, I had 3 main bands. The first one, the Pray for Forgiveness, that was the band which told me, hey, you're not as good as you think. You really have to do something with yourself.
Right.
Then after some time, I played a lot of world music and also pop and everything I could, because I wanted to explore the instrument, the bass guitar, because it's very, very nice to play that thing.
Yes.
And then I joined a band named Epon, and we had really a lot of fun together. I love the guys from the band. We had really nice shows, like several success shows. We played with Evanescence or Infected Rain from Moldavia. So that was nice. But as I said, I don't think in the latest point we clicked together music-wise, because
creative differences.
I wanted to go in a bit different way, and it didn't work out well because they wanted to do it differently.
Yeah.
And before that, I also played in a band which was named Foibos, and that was janty stuff. I don't know, maybe if Modern Day Babylon band tells you something. That's also a band from Czech Republic, and the music was inspired a bit by them. And that was the point where I practiced the most, and when I learned a lot how to approach that music and how to get into it deeper. And then when I got the opportunity to play with Seeing Things, I know I'm ready to do that, like with my technique, and also mindset was ready for that. So because the mindset and everything, Erich could tell you a lot about mindset of the bands, because that's like one of the most important things.
Yes.
At least I think so. We think so. That
yeah. Like, dude, if you kind of operate as a hive mind, which is kind of what the Anatomy Crosscast is about, it's like, imagine the whole band is one person. Like, how does that individual operate? Are they sustainable? Are they keeping track of their health? Are they making sure their bones aren't becoming brittle and about to splinter like wood? You know what I mean? It's like, who ends up being the heartbeat of the band? Who ends up being the bones, the blood, you know, the eyes? Who has like the most like who has the most enlightened perspective in those little eyeballs? Who has the luscious hair? You know, who's the pretty boy of the band? You know, stupid shit like that. It really helps compile everything into an anatomy, and then seeing things becomes one vessel. So, I mean, tonight, it seems we definitely have like the mind, and we have you know, most of the bones, because we have one of the founding members, I'm sure. So like, all that shit's important. It all helps drive the vessel. It all helps continue the body forward, because the moment that those pieces come out, you know, imagine when you lose a member, or if you ever lose a member in your project after you've been working with them for so long, you're missing a lung, right? You're missing a leg. You're missing maybe the head. Well, no fucking band can walk around decapitated and shit, or at least most bands can't, I guess, until they've, for example, for just for the sake of the analogy, the head, the front man, right? The face of the band. Because some people still kind of resort to that mindset until you find a new head, and then somehow sew it onto there, make sure everything's all good to go. And then they wake up, they're like, whoa, where am I? Why do I have a dick? Because maybe it's a girl head or some shit. Like, who knows?
Yeah.
But you know, that type of shit, those are big changes, and they can cause a whole bunch of disruptions with the band. Like, I can easily imagine if I got decapitated, right, and freaking Barbara's head got sewn onto mine, she's like, "Why do you have a penis?" Like, it'd be a different situation. Then you're like, okay, calm down. You're a dude now. It's okay. Thank you for donating your head, ? But we got to get going. We got to get ready for tour. You're like, oh shit. Okay. I'm like 2 inches taller. Let's go, baby. Let's get ready for tour.
Yeah.
But no, like, all those parts are important. That's what I'm trying to say. And that's what the Anatomy Crosscast is. That's the analogy for it. But if anything, because we're crawling closer and closer for sure to 4:30. Joseph, I wanted to go ahead and ask you the same way I did for Erich, about 5 characters, whether it be albums, artists, genres, people, and you can like switch in between to fill that 5th gap, right? Go ahead and provide us 5 characters that you think have really motivated you, pushed you forward, and to become the Joseph that we know today, who's doing the bing for seeing things.
Okay, so totally. First of my parents, they supported me. They helped me a lot with music, and they gave me a great base for what I'm doing now. Then I have to say, I don't want to sound like stupid or something, but really hanging out with guys with Erich, Martin, Vojta, that gave me a lot. In also that I came up with more music ideas, and we can get them together. And they taught me how to get it together. Then also my friend from the band Foibles, because of him, I kind of changed my mindset. You know, I was before that in the point of life where I was like, yeah, hey, I have a job now in what I wanted to do, and it's okay that I don't have to move forward. Like, I can just play.
You became content with it for a little bit.
Yeah, and that's one special project, and that friend of mine kind of taught me, hey, you have to work to be the best, not like to be at the same point, because you'll not be happy when you'll be at the same point. Yeah, and that's so that, and music wise, totally North Lane. That's a huge band for me. Bring Me the Horizon. That's a huge band. Oh, sorry, that was already much more than 5. But
no, you're fine.
Yeah.
You're fine. Don't worry about that. Well, here's the thing too. Like we were talking about that earlier. You were talking about like the whole band and utilizing the analogy. As far as I'm concerned, that's one person, right? That's one unit. That's one project. So that's completely fine. And I love that you ended up incorporating that in there, because it really shows me, and it like puts on paper, presents to the court per se, analogy, that the guys in Seeing Things motivated you, and they continue to motivate you to be like ascend creatively and to just continue going forward. They motivate you, they inspire you to keep doing better. They don't allow you to settle. They don't allow you to stay in one place. They're like, hey, we got shit to do, bro. You want to do shit? They're like, yeah. And so you keep moving forward. You keep doing shit. That's important.
Yeah.
So you got your band, you got your parents, which, I mean, hell, I wish I had, like, of course, my mom. Shout out to my mom. Love you, Mom. She has always been my absolute spine, my backbone, right? As far as just doing what I want to do. Geezer, my father, he was kind of there, and he was more like, yeah, you should definitely have something a little bit more realistic, like go into the Navy or something. I'm like, I don't want to go into the Navy. I want to look homeless for the rest of my life, but in a professional way, semi-professional way. And that's just how that went. But it's always awesome to have a backing and a support from people who have been like professionally involved in musical mediums of any kind.
Yeah.
And even if it's like, okay, they like music, they're passionate about music, they spent a good portion of their life learning about music, academically speaking, so they have their certificate or something, they have that on paper that, hey, I studied music, man, okay, back off, I know my shit, I know music theory. I'm like, okay, cool. So of course you have that next step before you, and you had that support from people who are more academically involved, and of course it kind of walled off from there, because they're like, yeah, we love that you're doing music, but why are you doing like screamy music with dubstep in it, like blah, blah, like that type of shit. It's a different step, but it's always great to have that backing. So you mentioned the band, Seeing Things itself, which is really cool. You mentioned your parents. You mentioned Martin. Wait, maybe I'm remembering that incorrectly. I do apologize. What were the other characters you ended up providing?
Oh, the Phoebus, the band.
Phoebus,
it
right.
was. I didn't name them, I think, but yeah, that was really important.
Good.
Also.
Cool. And you mentioned North Lane, you mentioned Bring Me the Horizon. So yeah, that kind of wraps up that. Thank you both, gentlemen, for deciding to provide your story, providing us 5 different characters that you helped motivate you, inspire you to do everything you did for Seeing Things. Now, deep breath, we descend into part 2, the second half of the podcast, where basically I'm going to pretend you two are one being, right? I'm going to pretend you both are seeing things right now. So I'm going to try to look back and forth as quickly as possible and see if you guys end up blending together over time. Just kidding, of course. But starting off, just imagine you're doing your first couple shows, your first couple live shows as Seeing Things, and you have someone approaching you at the table. They're like drenched in sweat, right? Because they happen to mosh to your music, or they were just dancing their heart, just like doom, doom, doom. Maybe they had a whistle like Terry Crews, and they're just like like just Seeing Things or some shit, because they're just jamming out. And they approach you at the table and they ask you this question: why the name Seeing Things? Where did that come from?
Do you want to start, or should
yeah,
I?
you can. You can. I think it's not some like deep meaning game like about our name, because when we trying to like get some name and make some name for this project, we just like just the Stranger Things started the show, and we like we like the name of that TV series on Netflix, and then we thought like seeing things. Yeah, seeing things sounds cool. Okay, let's make seeing things.
Yeah, like I would add something to that. Because if you noticed, a lot of our songs are named after some entities, like Soul Killer or Banshee, and the whole seeing things thing is like because we like that stuff. We like vampirism and all the modern cyberpunk shit,
Matrix
and
stuff.
yeah, Matrix, and the seeing things kind of fits into that whole mysterious thing, and it sounds cool. Yeah, of course.
Yeah. Well, like, as long as you like the name, you're like, this sounds badass, bro. Like that's sometimes all that matters.
And the name.
Yeah. And so, you know, with Erich and his perspective on it, he was like, okay, yeah, Stranger Things. Obviously, we can't name our band Stranger Things because then Netflix would sue us out the ass. So what about seeing things? And that's definitely one of the first things that came to mind. Not the Stranger Things thing, Stranger Things thing. Jeez. English is so broken. So you got that show in mind, which is like more spooky and more like 80s and stuff. And you got the synths, you got the classic soundtracks and stuff, which is always so inspiring. And it makes, I don't know how old you guys are, but I'm 23. And I often think, man, I wish I was born like in the 70s, grew up in the 80s, and just like had the opportunity to be a part of that. You know what I mean? It was a different time. It was a different culture. There was bullying. There was like kind of still segregation and, you know, people being racist in smaller towns more commonly. But at the end of the day, you also had a lot of like iconic and just fun stuff going on. You have so many people going back to play the old game systems because for the sake of nostalgia, or, you know, everybody still drinks Coke, you know, but we just drink it from aluminum cans and plastic bottles now instead of glass bottles, which was kind of the thing back then. Or, you know, you go to an In-N-Out, but like if you're modernized like that, you'll end up opening up your phone and using the McDonald's app. That way you can also utilize rewards and all this other shit through your phone, bro. Like you get to order food on your phone. People back then, they're like, what? You don't have to go to a phone booth anymore? No, dude. You can bring your phone everywhere with you. You can bring a freaking Windows XP Vista everywhere with you. They're like, what? It's just like brain melting, you know? But it's fun to look back on those times and kind of reflect. And then if that's kind of what happened, you guys converted that into a creative medium. And Cyberpunk, absolutely. I only played a little bit of that game. I watched the show, so I'm a fake fan. I do love Cyberpunk, but I only have seen the show. Cyberpunk Edgerunners was phenomenal. It ended, I think, in a really, really bad and like depressing place, but also it's like they don't really plan to do a season 2, so that's what we get. Team Rebecca always, but
I still have to watch it. I didn't.
Oh really?
I have like 100. I have 100 hours in the game, but I didn't watch the Edgerunners yet.
I tried to play Cyberpunk on my PS4 Pro, and that thing whistled louder than a jet engine. So, and it like completely turned off my PS4 the first time. I'm like, I'm good. I'll just get it for PS5 eventually. But and now there's like all the bug fixes and shit. So hopefully it'll be playable now. That could be really fun to play.
And now the extension will come now very, very soon. So maybe that's the point.
Yes,
to try
maybe,
because it's really awesome game.
Yeah, no, it seems like an awesome game. Yeah. And since I was very young, I've been a big fan of like Total Recall and Blade Runner and all these other like films that kind of had that similar aesthetic. What is it? Shit. Altered Carbon, Altered Carbon, the Netflix one.
Oh yeah,
love Altered Carbon too, and that kind of follows a similar aesthetic, just like technology has got too advanced and now people are exploiting it and exploiting people, government conspiracies, and like, you know, it's all real fun. I love that shit. because it's kind of the future. We're embarking into that future.
Same here.
Yeah. And I could definitely see how the music kind of converts that into a musical medium. So that's dope. So we know more or less the lore behind the band's name. It's like, that's it, Stranger Things, seeing things, let's go, you know, and just also recognizing, you know, the cyberpunk kind of future, like far future aesthetic. So I would then have to ask for you two individually, what is the most important thing when it comes to writing a Seeing Things song?
Like definitely we are starting with the riff, which sounds cool, and because we were at the point where we wrote things in the kind of opposite way, then that you write a riff and then you learn that, like, you know the riff, then you record it. We you can hear it a lot on Paranoia EP that guys composed something first and then we are learning it. It's the way how Velhjarta, for example, composed their stuff, or Human at the Last Breath. So we wanted to try that. And it worked, but now we want to go for more straightforward party music with and that kind of needs from us to write the riff first to be catchy, and that
I mean, sometimes
and then we are producing it and add stuff,
do the lyrics, because I know that's what Foo Fighters does.
Also that Erich very often come with some idea and we do some progressions over it, and that works pretty well, because when you sing something with your voice, that's the most natural thing which we have and which you can relate to. And even if in the song is something which is voice related, your brain tells you you don't know about it, but the brain tells you, wow, that's interesting, or it gets that thing gets you. So
right,
we are trying to add stuff like that.
Cool, badass. And Eric, what's the most important thing for you when it comes to writing a Seeing Things song?
But sometimes for me it's like first of all I try to came up with like only vocals of the chorus or of the verse, like in Soul Killer, because from the beginning of the song we just had like the chorus only vocals. And then Martin and other guys just started writing riffs over it, and we blended together, and that's kind of like a workflow for like so sometimes it's like as Joseph said, and sometimes the workflow are different. Like for me, most important thing is that like starting with vocals first, only vocals, then blending like melody progression on it and other stuff.
And I mean, sometimes
they're switching a lot.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, that's always fun, is it like kind of keeps you on your toes, creatively speaking. Like if you're always going, okay, we're going to start with a riff and then we're going to do a bass part and then we'll do vocals. Like that's scripted, dude. That's not how, that's not how you make music. You got to switch it up a little bit and catch people off guard,
you have no freedom there.
Like, exactly. You would have no freedom. Exactly. Another thing that Erich just mentioned that I really like, and this is actually how I've been writing music, and like writing like 60 songs worth of lyrics now, so it has yet to be put on paper, but it's there, it's source material. Is like sometimes you got to build around the main event. You got to build around the chorus. You got to build around what is most catchy to you when you picture the music video in your head. Because if you're just starting out with more simple stuff, more orthodox stuff, and then you're like, okay, how do we make this weird? That can be a process, absolutely. But sometimes when you have something that's so catchy in your head and you're like, okay, this is going to be the part with the repeating vocals, that's also what gets people's attention the most, right? So it's always important to recognize like the different methods for creating music. That's the beauty of music, really. It's a massive creative medium. It has a whole bunch of different genres. It has a whole bunch of different types, a whole bunch of varying species, but it's music at the end of the day. Until we start using like actual animals as instruments, and then that'll be a different time for sure. I bet aliens are doing that somewhere right now, just like smacking a pig the right way, just like different squeaks and different notes. Like, I digress. That's a low-key animal abuse here on Earth, but anyways. So we now know the story behind the band's name. We now at least have 2 individuals out of 5 who have provided their perspective on how they think is like vital to making a Seeing Things song. So now, with the remaining time in session, we don't exactly have an EP or an album to dissect just yet. I know you guys are probably cooking that up. You're getting ready for something bigger. And I don't know shit, people. I promise you. I do not know anything. So I'm not keeping anything from you. But, with the last 2 songs that you guys have provided this year, that being Soul Killer and Switchblade, if anything, Erich, would you mind kind of explaining what's going on lyrically behind Soul Killer and Switchblade, or even just the overall creative process and how you guys ended up making these songs? 1, 2, you're like, okay, this is how it's going to be different from Paranoia. This is how it's going to be different from Dystopia. You may take it away, gentlemen.
I think lyrically, the lyrics are inspired by, as I said before, by themes of cyberpunk, metric stuff, and vampirism. But the main difference between our upcoming album and the EP Paranoia was because that Paranoia EP was like about depression stuff and dark stuff, and some personality, some getting things more objectively and from other point of views. But overall, it was like about depressing stuff, right, and anxiety and this type of stuff. But now our upcoming album will be about like mixture of the whole futuristic themes as metrics, cyberpunk, vampirism, but still have a very deep meaning and resonate with the struggles of complexities of our modern world or something like that.
Right. Cool. No, that's awesome. And I cannot wait to I mean, of course, Joseph, you can provide feedback on that as well. We're not pulling frontman syndrome anymore in session.
Yeah, of course. I think Erich runs it up very well. The Paranoia was about maybe our society's sicknesses, about how we are suffering from all different types of feelings, and it was more about what we feel and how we feel maybe sometimes. And the next the album, which will be called Blood Rave, and cool. We should release it in autumn. It will be more about in which world we want to live, or which we consider cool, and about the rave, and everything will be inside of that.
Cool, badass. And I mean, thank you for deciding to very subtly at least provide us the name of the album. That's pretty cool. Got that exclusive, ladies and gentlemen. Anyways, this has been the Anatomy Crosscast episode. Who knows? Hopefully 53, but we'll see what happens. And this has been Erich and Josef Stranik of Seeing Things from Czech stopping by. Is there anything else you boys wanted to promote before we wrapped up session?
Thanks everybody who listens to our music. Today we released new artwork for a single which will come in 2 weeks. So please pre-save it on Spotify or Apple Music or any other streaming platform. We will be grateful for that. Leave a comment under our videos. We are responding at all of them because it's very important to us what the communication with the fans and be close with them.
Be connected.
Yeah, that's it.
I love this. It's great.
Yeah, Martin did that. Our guitar player. He's really
talented. Oh, fuck yeah, dude. That's awesome.
And yeah, thanks for having us. And it has been great. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely, gentlemen. Well, you had it, folks. This is episode something of the Anatomy Crosscast featuring two members, that being Erich and Josef Stranik from Seeing Things, based out of Czechoslovakia. The first time officially that we're reaching over to Czech, being that we've done No Face, No Case now, which they're in Prague. And then let's see. I think you guys mentioned another one, Distant, of course, Distant from the Netherlands. We're hoping to get Within Destruction on the podcast someday, but I think they're too cool for us now. So I guess we might have to pass up on that opportunity. But this has been the Anatomy Crosscast, hosted by yours truly. We will be getting this uploaded as soon as possible, but otherwise, shorter episode for sure. But we will see you next time.